Sloppy Joe, man. Sloppy enough to have this leaked audio from a meeting with so-called civil rights leaders come out to the public, in which he's basically telling them that I ain't doing nothing at all for y'all. Nothing. Okay? That's what Joe is saying. And also in this meeting, the so-called civil rights leaders demonstrate exactly why they can't lead me anywhere. Because they continue to be tricked, hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray by the Democrats, but always keep going back to the same well, drinking the poisonous water, and then wonder why they're getting sick. They do it every single time. And again, that's why I say, man, the leadership in the black community is just terrible. It's just terrible. They don't know nothing at all. And this leaked audio just clearly demonstrates my point. But before we get in that, my name is Greg Foreman, and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys. So there's leaked audio from a meeting between Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and civil rights leaders. Okay, and some of the civil rights leaders in this was like Al Sharpton, some other people. I got this from The Intercept, and they received the leaked audio. I am cutting out everything except the leaked audio. So it's not necessarily going to flow in a way that's like super consistent, but there's a lot of snippets of the conversation. If you listen carefully, you'll get the gist of what the conversation was about. And just as a background, this meeting was not supposed to be recorded. It was supposed to be private. However, you got some people in the meeting that recorded anyways, and that's just a lesson in 2020. Everything is recorded. Everything is on video. Okay, so don't be surprised when leaked stuff come out. And just for some context, and what I want you to pay attention to is that they're essentially asking Joe Biden, hey, what are you going to do for us? Can you do X, Y, and Z on criminal justice reform, prison reform, and the defunding the police conversation? And Joe Biden is telling him what he's willing to do and what he's not willing to do. So pay attention to how he talks to them as you listen to this audio. Roll it.
This is a completely closed call, so just wanted to remind you of that. There's no recording.
I'm the first person, black or white, who called attention to the fact that you were finding that there was the rate of people who were African Americans who dying was 3 times that of white people. I don't carry around a stamp on my head saying progressive and I'm AOC, but I have more of a record of getting things done in the United States Congress than anybody you know. Anybody you know. By 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. You hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do. Let's get something straight. You shouldn't be disappointed. What I've done so far is more than anybody else has done this far. Okay? Number one. Number two, I mean what I say when I say it.
I want to ask that you consider issuing an executive order to create a national task force to examine challenges to our democracy, a national voter access commission.
It's going to be important, for example, that one of your first actions is a reversal of the executive order that President Trump promulgated that essentially seeks to gag conversations about diversity, race, and history among anyone who contracts with the federal government. And so we would ask you to lend your voice and your strength and your influence and your power and your ability to reach across the aisle to try and pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But failing that, we would ask you to pull from that act measures that can be enacted by executive order. You have the power to call for a national database on police misconduct. You have the power to ask for a registry that will allow people to easily search in public multiple misconduct complaints against particular officers. You have the ability to impose a database around police killings and police shootings. And these are things that you can do by executive order. There is a prison tragedy that is unfolding because of COVID. I encourage you to use your power to order an investigation of state and local prisons and jails to find out precisely what is happening, and you have that power through the Department of Justice.
We don't care about throwing fists in the air and the symbols. We want the substance. The Joe Biden I've known is substance. The Kamala Harris I've known is substance. We need it now more than ever. And I would hope that the first day you start doing the things with your executive orders to restore some dignity to law enforcement in our community and to voting.
There's some things that I'm going to be able to do by executive order. I'm not going to hesitate to do it. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to do what used to, Vanita, you probably used to get angry with me during the debates when you'd have some of the people you were supporting say, on day one, I'm going to executive order to do this. Not within the constitutional authority. I am not going to violate the Constitution. There is a Constitution. It's our only hope. Our only hope. And the way to deal with it is where I have executive authority, I will use it to undo every single damn thing this guy has done by executive authority. But I'm not going to exercise executive authority where it's questioned, where I can come along and say, I can do away with assault weapons. There's no executive authority to do away with that. And no one's fought harder to get rid of assault weapons than me. Me. But you can't do it by executive order. If you do that, next guy comes along and says, well, guess what? By executive order, I'm going to say everybody can own machine guns again. So we got to be careful. I know you all know this, but I also don't think we should get too far ahead of ourselves on dealing with police reform in that, because they've already labeled us as being defund the police. Anything we put forward in terms of the organizational structure to change policing, which I promise you will occur, promise you. Just think to yourself and give me advice whether we should do that before January 5th, because that's how they beat the living hell out of us across the country, saying that we're talking about defunding the police. We're not. We're talking about holding them accountable.
You hear that? You hear how Joe Biden talks to these people, right? That doesn't sound like somebody that's actually listening. That doesn't sound like somebody that respects you. That sounds like somebody that's like, I'm going to do what I want. I don't care what your opinion is. I can roll back and undo everything Trump did, but I can't do none of the things you guys are asking me for, right? And this not only just applies for the prison reform and the criminal justice stuff. This also applies for the progressive agenda, period. A lot of progressive are asking Biden to do things via executive order, such as forgive student loans. That's been something they've been speculating about. And to me, this audio basically signifies that Biden's not planning on doing any of that. Biden's not planning on doing nothing. And he tells them, listen, I'm not doing it through executive order. I don't want to violate the Constitution, but you know, maybe it might get done with some legislation. When we all know how the legislative process goes in the United States, basically what it's saying is that it's just not happening. Especially if the Republicans keep the 2 seats in Georgia. Nothing's happening. If you truly understand the political spectrum and the environment right now, you have the progressives, and then you have the moderate/establishment Democrats, the moderate/establishment Republicans, and now the populist right, aka the Trump right. That's basically what the current political environment in the U.S. is like. And with that understanding, you should not be surprised to hear these comments from Joe Biden. And also, if you paid attention to what he said at the beginning of that, when he was talking about how America is basically going to be non-white by 2040 and that Hispanics are taking over, he basically telling y'all Negroes, he's saying, listen, y'all not really a priority for us because Hispanics gonna be taking over, and y'all need to basically work with them. We not really worried about y'all. We worried about Hispanics. And see, this is just another reason why you should probably stop aborting black babies. Population numbers matter, and the black population has not grown. Okay, 19 million something abortions in the black community since 1973. So Biden tells you exactly what he thinks, and I kind of respect it. But y'all got to realize, like, this man does not put you first. He does not prioritize you, and he's telling you the reasons why. Like, when somebody finally understands that, then you might get somewhere. You know, and what annoys me is that these people keep coming back to Joe Biden, asking him to do things that he will not do. And also, this man has a history of doing the exact opposite of what you want him to do. But yet you expect him to be your miracle man. When President Trump has shown time and time again, hey, I might not be able to do everything for you, but at the very least, I'm willing to listen. Joe Biden don't sound like a man that's willing to listen. Joe Biden sound like a man that got his mind made up about what he will and won't do. Trump, on the other hand, would listen. You guys remember the First Step Act, Kim, Kanye being there to help, suggest who President Trump should grant a pardon to and clemency to. Trump worked with Tim Scott on opportunity zones. Trump has a record of showing that, hey, I'm willing to work. You come to the table with ideas, let's see if we can make it happen. But no, Trump says racist things sometimes, or so-called racist things sometimes. We can't work with him. But we'll work with Biden. Even though Biden has actually acted on things that people may say are racist, but he comes out and he has a message of unity. He's politically correct. So we'll work with him. And again, it just goes to show how simple-minded these people are. I would much rather have somebody who is willing to do it and to listen and has shown that he's willing to act on certain things, but he sometimes might say some stuff that's questionable, rather than somebody who says all the right things but will do the exact opposite of what they're saying. I would much rather have Trump than Biden on something like this. And this is why I keep trying to tell people, a lot of these super woke black people on the left are celebrating Trump being out of office, like all their racial issues are solved, like their life just got magically better if Trump leaves office, of course. But my question to these people is like, what did you really gain? You didn't gain anything. If anything, you missed out on a big opportunity. Because again, the political strategist in me sees President Trump as somebody that's, you can work with. He has the type of personality in which if you frame certain things in the right way and you can, make it look good for him politically, I think he would strongly consider doing some things. And again, we've seen it with what he did with criminal justice reform, what he did with Tim Scott, right? But beyond that, another annoying part about this whole thing is the fact that they're not even asking the right questions. They're asking about people that are already trapped in the system, right? They're asking about people who most likely are having a negative effect on communities in the first place. Now, I'm not saying all of them do. A lot of people are just locked up for stupid reasons like, drugs, right? But what that brings me to is that, first of all, you should be asking about policies that are going to help people make a positive impact. People that want to make a positive impact. You should be asking about, what are you going to do to help business? What are you going to do to help entrepreneurship? What are you going to help do to bring jobs? That's what you should be talking about. The whole conversation should be about that. And if you are going to talk about criminal justice reform or the police issue, why don't you talk about policies that avoid people getting locked up in the first place? I don't know. Maybe like, what are you going to do to push for legalization of marijuana? I know some people might, they shouldn't legalize marijuana. Like, honestly, guys, like I said, this is an issue most people agree on. People just think it should be legal. I think a lot of conservatives agree on it. And quite honestly, it's a big missed opportunity for conservatives. Besides what a lot of people think happened with the election, I think that if Trump would have came out for legalization and acted on it, I think that he truly could have won in a landslide. Right? I'm not saying that he may not have. I'm just saying, like, maybe he would have got 85 million votes or 90 million votes instead of 73 million. That's what I'm saying. And the thing is, I think he would actually do it if he had people pushing it to him. If he had people pushing it and saying, hey, President Trump, you should do this because X, Y, and Z reasons. I think he'd do it. This is stuff that if the civil rights leaders are actually serious about criminal justice reform, they should talk about how to avoid people getting locked up in the first place. Because if you avoid giving police a reason to lock people up in the first place, honestly, you wouldn't even need to have any of these conversations. Those problems will be solved because police can't just, search a vehicle because they smell marijuana or, lock you up for petty drug crimes, right? But regardless of that, as an individual right now, right, the best way to avoid interaction with the police is either to not use marijuana and, you know, illegal drugs, or if you're going to use it, you know, be smart about, you know, whatever you're doing, right? So I really do feel like legalization is consistent with, you know, conservative principles and values of individualism, freedom, liberty, and small government. And honestly, I really do need to do a more detailed video on the conservative argument for legalization, because it is a very strong one, to be quite honest with you. But anyways, yeah, I'm just frustrated and disappointed to see that our so-called civil rights leaders keep getting bamboozled, hoodwinked, tricked, led astray by the Democrat Party, by people like Joe Biden, who's obviously not going to do anything, who promised the world but are not going to do anything and don't want to do anything. But yeah, I have to sit here and listen to these people suck up and beg this man to do something that he does not want to do, while demonizing President Trump, who's proved that at the very least he will listen and act on things, but yet for whatever reason he's the racist bad guy. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.